biggest challenge for me going in was how are we gonna make this movie as interesting as possible without having dialogue? When you don't have dialogue in a movie, you have to bring the world to the movie in a different way. The thing I was most scared of kind of became our superpower. We started realizing very early on that there was a real power in the room to not speaking. We started shooting these scenes and realizing what the barn sounded like, what the forest sounded like. All these things really kind of came to life on their own. Jeff and I talked about it a lot as a Western. It's kind of big and broad and epic, and it's not about feeding the audience with information, feeding them with dialogue. It's about living with this family. It's funny, I remember the cast and the crew, but most of the crew had to learn how to be quiet because
I just needed the major geography.
Well, it's a quiet movie, so they'll just dub it all out. We can be as loud as we want. And I was like, no, quite the opposite. We actually need you to be more quiet than you've ever been on set.
What does it mean to not make a sound? There's no way anyone can survive without making a sound.
The mistake is to describe this film as a silent film. It's effectively a film without dialogue, but sound plays another character. In this film, sound's the enemy of this family. Sounds like the other bad guy. And so every scene had to be injected with that kind of tension. I mean, it's painful to live silently. It's very hard to live silently. And there was also so much to play with the dynamics between the family members that, you know, I think as actors, it was a very sort of rich experience.
To go into Regan's head. We turn the sound off in the movie. We don't even have backgrounds on. There's always backgrounds on in a movie. There's always some sort of ambience, from a room tone to outside to crickets to wind. And there's 2 or 3 times in the movie where we turn it off completely. And we were so nervous, at least I was, the first time we did it. I'm like, I think the speakers are broken.
In the horror genre, there's no more powerful special effect than sound.
Foley, a method in which objects are used to create sounds made by humans, or in this case, monsters, was used. The most unusual sound might be the echolocation sounds used to illustrate how the monsters get around without vision. To make this sound, they settled on putting a stun gun up to a patch of grapes. They then manipulated the sound in the next phase, the editing process.
The whole concept with these creatures is there's kind of an electromagnetic component. So using something electrical as a source for the vocals seemed to kind of make sense. So here's our recording of the stun gun. And we can take that sound and slow it down, and we can hear the individual electric clicks. People might assume that a film that's really quiet and has a lot of silence is a lot easier to do for sound designers than a big, bombastic, wall-to-wall extravaganza. And in fact, the opposite is true. It's just as hard to do a quiet film, if not harder. You are naked. Every little detail becomes a huge thing.
One of the really interesting challenges was creating contrast. It's like, how many different sort of shades of quiet can we have?
It creates a really different psychoacoustic experience. When you start taking away sounds, the sounds you do play become way more powerful.
We have spent so much time just figuring out if the alien hates noise, why would it make noise? In the very beginning, in the initial screenings that we had, the alien wasn't in the movie because it's all a visual effect. And at the same time, you have to show the movie to people so that they understand what's happening because they have no way to evaluate it. So initially, the alien was screeching and clicking. I mean, it was super loud. Some of the screeching, to me, sounded like fingernails on a chalkboard, and it was just too much and too uncomfortable. feedback that's causing the aliens to convulse. That was really loud. Ultimately, we came to the decision, if these aliens like a world that's silent, we have to limit their sounds to the bare minimum.
In this day and age with the phones and everything, we just don't get a chance to listen. So then when you're doing a scene where no one can talk and they're just walking through the woods and you're recording that sound, you start to think, oh my God, this is really cool. Like, people are gonna actually pay attention to this rather than just go, I get it, it's woods, I get it. And you're like, yeah, but what does woods really sound like?
Some of the feedback we've been getting from people is kind of interesting. When they've gotten out of the movie theater, they've started to hear the world around them in a different way, and that's just super gratifying.
I always saw this as like a sweater that unravels. You go with your gut instinct and you go with what feels right. Every single crew member, from our production designer to our DP to our editor, it just felt like everyone was on board from the very beginning. I do feel really, really lucky that it all came together the way it did.